everybody. I am relaxing at my tent over at Abundance Plus, just killing 25 minutes until I talk. And some gentleman runs over there frantically. Aren't you speaking at 9? Oh, okay. So sorry if I was late. I thought it was 9:30 for some reason. We're going to talk about what the rooted life is. And I'm going to give you some tips for living it. We're going to make sure you want the rooted life. Let me paint a picture for what it looks like for me right now. We've built a family homestead in western North Carolina, 75 acres. We're working about 12, 15 of it. And we have maxed it out. Max chores, max projects for the amount of people in our family. And then my oldest, just as he's coming in his prime to be able to help. Children are an investment. You're putting into them. They help when they're little, with quotation marks, and then they get big and you enjoy the fruit of that reward of having them go with you on chores, teaching them things. You're finally enjoying the fruit. Well, then my son busts his hip. So we're running a farm without our eldest son. I wrote all these things down. This is all last week, believe it or not. We had got 50 chicks. I think over 20 of them are mysteriously dead and dying within the last week or the week before that. Something's getting them. This is the rooted life. These are our egg-laying chickens. We're living not paycheck to paycheck. We're living egg basket to egg basket right now. We didn't have any extra eggs coming into this event. We had to go buy eggs, $1 an egg, $12 a dozen. I was blown away. I haven't bought eggs in years. No lie, 2 days before we leave, we're out doing a photo shoot for our next book, Homestead Builds. So we're shooting pictures of our chickshaw and this and that, and we're like out in the field, and our pigs are supposed to be way up in the woods, about 600, 800 feet. You probably know where this is going. And the little piglets we tried to put into the woods to make jobs easier for the farm sitter, so there wouldn't be 2 pig jobs. There would only be one. Everybody's in the woods now. Here's this little piglet. Does anybody have pigs? Okay, you know it can be a lot of fun when a pig gets out, right? Well, first thing to do, don't panic. Well, we didn't panic, but here's this little pig, and they're really fast when they're little, and pigs don't herd like cows or sheep or ducks. They don't herd. Actually, Rebecca tried to herd one once, a couple of weeks ago? She came out, we're trying to herd Beefcake in. Beefcake's this big 550, 600-pound pig. She goes up behind it. Naturally, you would think, okay, I want you to go that way. If you do that to a pig and you push him on the butt and want him to go that way, what happens? Rebecca's laughing. The complete opposite. You better be careful. They might run back between your legs. Where was I going with that? Okay, the little piglets are out. What are we going to do? Well, fortunately, they had grown up on us feeding them milk. We got some milk out there. I grabbed that squealing pig and put it back in the forest. And before you know it, not just that pig, but the other little pig that broke out. So we're chasing these pigs, grabbing these pigs, putting them in the pole barn so that we could come to this event. We put them in a more fortified place. And God bless his heart, the farm sitter is going to have two pig jobs instead of one. And that is a trick. I mean, imagine some of you guys have some farm sitters here. How else are you here and running your farm? So that is one thing you want to do, is just make things as easy as possible for them so that you can get away. That's our rooted life. Every morning we're getting up early. I get up at 5:30, waking up the kids shortly after that. Every single day. Saturday, Sunday, Easter too. In fact, early on, I had a hard time adjusting to this, especially when and I'm going to admit it from the stage, and all y'all are probably going to laugh because in your heart you felt this too, and finally somebody's speaking it from upstage. Somebody is admitting it at a Homestead conference. When I started getting Lyme disease and I was slowing down and things were getting a little harder for me, I was laying in the bed one night just exhausted, and I was going to that wonderful place between awake and asleep. Isn't that a wonderful place? And then I just get this nudge. That's a pet peeve of mine. In the first place, getting nudged on the side. It's the beautiful one. And I'm kind of like, ugh, what? She said, Justin, did you put up the chickens? I thought for a minute. You know this story? You know where I'm going? Somebody's giggling. Anybody heard this story? I said, okay, Don't tell anybody the story, okay? Because I'm supposed to be the apron-wearing permaculture chicken ninja master. Keep this story between us. What happens at the Homestead Festival stays at the Homestead Festival. Here we go. Did you put up the chickens? No. They're silent like that. Well, are you gonna? And I said, no. Hey guys, gentlemen, a little tip. When your wife asks you a question, it's not a question, it's a pop quiz. You better get the answer right. She wants you to do something, and you got a 50-50 chance. So put a little thought into it. What she was really saying was, get up, go get the chickens. And so she made her a little more convincing. And she said, well, something's going to get them. And she's right. Everybody's trying to eat a chicken. We just got to beat them to it. She said, something's going to get them. And I took a deep breath. I hope they die. All right, keep that between us, all right? So why, though? Well, I'll give you a little tip since I bring up that story. We don't want it to be in vain. I mean, sometimes it sucks. I mean, sometimes homesteading sucks. You're letting those chickens out in the morning. You're putting them up at night. But you have to just embrace that suck. And I ended up getting up and going putting those chickens up. Here's the thing about it. Why are we doing that? And we're hang with me to the end. We're going to really explain it. But I will say this. It's not necessarily for taste. I mean, unless all you're growing is tomatoes. I'll give you that. A homegrown tomato is going to taste better than a grocery store-bought potato. But not everything is that way. Okay? A lot of times the store things, especially like fruits are really hard to grow to taste as good as they are in the grocery store. We'll just admit that right now. I actually had Morgan Gold Charge Farm, do a blind taste test at Homesteaders of America last year, and he came and he put a blindfold on me and he gave me the jerriest of eggs at the big box store, and then he gave me somebody's homegrown homestead eggs right next to it, and I was blindfolded. The apron-wearing permaculture chicken ninja master failed the test. I guessed wrong. So it doesn't necessarily taste better. And a lot of time, I'm thinking $12 an egg. I mean, $12 a dozen for eggs. That might actually be a steal after you start thinking about what I put into a coop. If you start counting your time into it. She's like nodding. I've seen people post pictures of their first eggs, and they're like, $2,000 eggs here. Let's celebrate. Isn't that right? So it's not always less expensive. So why are we really? That's the rooted life. Do you really want that? Like, what is this? Is this a mood kill at 9:15 in the morning? Okay, hang with me to the end. It's a home-based lifestyle. You're going to opt out of something. I mean, gardens. You can have a garden. Oprah has a garden. Martha Stewart has a garden, and you can still be a normal person. But what happens is, and a lot of you learned this through COVID, you wanted to start growing more than a garden. And so you got you a chicken. And then before you know it, you're the crazy chicken lady, and you've discovered that the chicken is the gateway drug to homesteading. And all of a sudden it's this big, and you're a weirdo. Okay? You've left Martha and Oprah long behind. The neighbors are now, it's not so cute anymore. So what are you going to opt out of, though? We've all heard of opting out of the grid, the power grid. I'm off grid. But I had Josh Thomas from Homesteading Family. Anybody know him? He was out to my farm. We were doing chores together, and he said something really profound as we were walking around. He's like, you know what? We've opted out of the food grid. And he has a good point. When Rebecca and I, when we first started homesteading, we were really motivated to save money. And as we did that, we looked at where we were spending our money. And as soon as you get into homesteading, it seems like this off-grid movement is big. Goats are big. Be warned about the goats. Maybe we'll get to that in a minute. But we looked at our bill, and we were spending so much more on food than we were our power. So unbeknownst to us, unknowing to us, we went after what we were spending the most money on, which was our food. So we started growing our own food. You can get off the food grid. And that's the rooted life. Get off some sort of grid. It doesn't have to be the grid, the power grid. I'll admit this too. Rebecca and I love the grid. Very efficient, affordable way to get power, and we just embrace it and are going at our food because we spend a lot more money there. What other grids are there? And before you know it, if you opt out of one grid, I bet many of you guys can agree, if you opt out of one grid, before you know it, you're sitting in the 90-degree heat in Columbia, Tennessee, listen to a talk about the rooted life, okay? You've opted out of something, okay? Because other people, they're at the mall with the air conditioning. Wait, nobody goes to the mall anymore. Where do they go back? They're at home shopping on Amazon. Okay, you can opt out of the medical grid. You know, before you know it, Rebecca and I opted out. She learned that conventional milk isn't so good for you. It's got hormones, GMOs, all that stuff in it. And she said, we got to get organic. And we switched to organic. Why are you laughing? I'm missing a good joke here. What? She went, oh yeah, okay. She's jumping ahead of me there. She said, we went from that to having our own cow. Yeah. I mean, we started with, let's get out of conventional milk, get organic milk, and we started replacing everything as we ran out of it with organics. And before you know it, we have a grass-fed, rotationally grazed every day, raw, A2 family cow. And not only one, but 3. You can opt out of the school grid. For many of you, that's the first thing you opt out of. You decide you're going to homeschool your kids, and you've opted out of that grid. Some of you get out of the religious grid. You start to begin questioning how you were raised. At some point, you got to say, especially if you were raised religious or not, at some point, you got to say, this is mine or this is not mine. And so maybe you've opted out of something in the way you've been raised. And what about the social grid? You know, you like I said, if you've gone from a garden to chickens, well, you have to go home and shut them up at night. So you have to leave you're the crazy chicken lady that's leaving the party early to go shut your chickens up. And Rebecca and I have been there. Okay, I'm trying to paint a picture of what the rooted life is. You're going to begin to question everything. Have you noticed once you've questioned and opted out of homeschooling or food or medical, it's easy to question other things? When Rebecca and I decided to travel America in 2017 in a converted school bus with 4 kids under 8, 9, and make a video about it every single day, people would naturally ask us, do you parents think you're nuts? Do your normal friends think you're nuts? They wrote us off years ago. I mean, if you're going to do that, you've opted out of a lot of things beforehand. I had Joel Salatin at my house. We had him on a show for Abundance Plus, and I was interviewed him for about 2 or 3 hours, and we talked about this. This came up. He calls these threads. So you begin to explore these different threads, the homeschool thread, the off-food grid thread, and you keep going, though. It doesn't stop. Rebecca and I are exploring things now, even to this day. I was curious, Joel, what's your latest thread? His latest thread is we've found community here, right? But we're all from all over. You guys are from Ohio. There was a Californian here. You're from Kentucky. You're from Tennessee. I'm from North Carolina. And that's good. We come together and we feel a little less crazy. But for Joel, and he inspired me in this, is he is going backwards. And his new thread is to cultivate community of proximity. Neighbors that aren't doing it the same way, that disagree with the style of farming or this and that. Still, finding commonality and coming together because we might need that. Some might be concerned about the way things are going, and it might be even more important one day to have a relationship with the proximity of our neighbor. Give up on our differences because they're not rotationally grazing. They're shooting them up with all kinds of chemicals. We have a neighbor that he's growing beans, corns, and taters. We might not eat any of that. That's vegetables. That's not even vegetable. That's grain, tubers, and legumes. And we avoid that because of our illness. But that doesn't mean we can't go there and help this he's probably 90 years old. He probably knew my grandpa, who I never met and is gone. So, and I'm sure he sprays it up. Let's go help him spray. Let's get over that part and make a friend and find commonalities there. Because we have a tractor he can borrow. He has knowledge of the community. He's in touch with the weather. He does a good job. I mean, it works. He cans it. We could learn how to can from him. See what I'm saying? At first, when you first get into it and you learn something new, you get zealous and judgmental. I did. And we got to let that go. Let that be our new thread. And I challenge you all if you question one thing, keep questioning. It's not going to hurt you because you're either going to find your truth or, what's the or? Yeah, you're going to accept what you already have as truth, or you're going to find a new one, okay? Whether that be something as sensitive as religion, political, or whatever. You're going to claim it as your own by just questioning it, and that's okay. If you're going to have the rooted life, you're going to need to be home. Rebecca and I homeschool, we home cook, we've home churched before. We play at home. Heck, she's even home birthed. Except that one time we had to transfer the hospital and Henry was born at a gas station. So that one aside, we're home birthers. Just think about what you can work from home. Did I say that? And now more than ever, even if you have a normal job, I'm an entrepreneur, I can make up my own rules, but even if you have another job, never has it been more of a ripe opportunity to work from home. We saw through COVID and quarantines that it can be done. And it feels like it's more socially acceptable than ever to maybe say to the boss, can I have some hours at home? I met many of my friends have jobs and they work from home, and that's a great homesteading income, and we all need that. I think, was it you? You asked me, what would happen if something happened to your YouTube channel? Well, YouTube is my job. I would have to find another job. It's just as simple as that. As an entrepreneur, I would just find another problem and come up with a solution and trade. Yes? Oh, she's giving me a podium. That's good. Rebecca is looking out for me. I need a podium because my leg is going numb. But at first, when she's waving me down, well, yesterday she was like, you should have took off your sunglasses. I was trying to get your attention. But she's over there waving me down, and I'm thinking, okay, the zipper's up. The zipper's up. We're doing good. Pant legs are even. All right, we're good. Where was I? Ooh, that feels good. Okay, I'll tell you how to stay at home. I alluded to it early. Get a chicken. Because you have to put that chicken up at night. You have to leave the party. You can't stay all hours of the night anymore. You have to leave the party before it gets dark. In the summer, you got a little bit more time. Rebecca, I can remember that was a defining moment in our food growing history when we were going to this party with normal people, and we had to say, I'm sorry, I'm out. And I think in our hearts, whether we knew it at the time, we're kind of like, I think we're going to need to find new friends. And that's okay too. Take it another level. You had to put the chicken up at night. Now, get a family cow and do what you call calf separate. Let the calf have the cow all day long. And then in the afternoon, how hardcore do you want to be? How much milk do you want? The earlier you put that calf away from the cow, we call it calf separating. We go, the cows are here, it's with their calf. The sheep are following right behind them. And we take the calf, we cut the calf out and put it with the sheep. And mama's milk builds up all night. And you can go out there and get morning milk. Now that then enables you to go away for a couple of days and just leave the calf on. And you'll go back and the mama cow will still be in milk. But that'll help you stay at home. Because now you're not leaving the evening party, you're leaving the afternoon picnic. And you have to. And it doesn't matter if it's Saturday, Sunday, Christmas. In fact, we milk on Christmas. And to turn a problem into a solution. That might be a drudge, right? We want a day off. Instead, we turn it into a party. Christmas, Rebecca, the beautiful one, makes everybody hot chocolate. We put it in mugs. We take it out there with us to wherever the cows are in the field, and we have our hot chocolate. We get one of the boys' iPods, and we get a Bluetooth speaker for it, and we go out there and we listen to Christmas music. And now milking on Christmas is so much fun. Has anybody ever heard the book, what's that book called, Rebecca, on Christmas morning? Maybe it's called On Christmas Morning. It's a children's book. Have you guys heard that? You've heard it? You got to put that on your Homestead book list. On Christmas Morning, something like that. And it's about a dairy family who they get up really early every morning, like at 4 a.m. or something, and they go milk the cows, and on Christmas too. And one Christmas, the boy wanted to surprise his dad. So the boy woke up at 2 a.m. and went out and milked the cows in enough time that he got back into bed. And it just gives me chills as I talk. And then the dad comes and wakes him up, and it's kind of like this big surprise. He gave his dad a break. My children do that sometimes. On Saturday, it's become this game. Like, Saturday is the day we take off, and we call it a 0 day. We still have to do our chores. We don't do any projects. So on 0 day, it's turned into this game. Who can get up before the others and go do the chores? And we always come back in and be like, "Hey, you slept in. We got to hurry up. We got to go milk the cows." And they're on to it now, and they're kind of like, but it's a lot of fun. And sometimes it'll just be me and Gideon. "Hey, Gideon, come on. You want to get up? Let's go." What? Uh-oh. Christmas Day in the Morning. Such a good book. If you're not in tears, I've done a bad job explaining it. And most of you are not in tears. None of you are in tears. I've done a horrible job. Go get that book. No affiliation with that book. You heard that book, Jessica? Okay. Put it on your list. Where are we at? Okay, so what Rebecca and I ended up doing, we had this lady that would come in and work for us, and she ended up noticing something. People come through our farm. It feels like we're at a camp. We're at a summer camp. Like, people of all kinds come through. And finally she said, "You guys are the most socialized homebodies I know." We didn't stop partying, Rebecca and I. We're not some weird hermits now. We just brought that party to us. We started this, we have this thing, well, we got to get back on it, but we've had some injuries and whatnot in the family. But once a month, invite all your crazy chicken lady friends over and get together. Watch a show. We'd watch shows as they came out on Abundance Plus. You can have a barbecue. Jason from Sow the Land just had a whole pig. He just cooked a whole pig barbecue and had a bunch of people out. It was a lot of fun. Bring the social life to you. Let's give you some tips for living the rooted life. I'm going to give you tips for living the rooted life as an individual, as a couple. Like, how do you get your spouse on board? We're going to talk about that. How to live the rooted life as a family. So first, as an individual, how about let's take control of our own attitude? We do not have control of the things that go on around us. There's a lot of problems and concerns in this world. The only thing we have control of completely, not our children, we don't even control them, it's our mind. No matter what happens to us, we can control our mind. Nobody can take that away from us, no matter how bad it gets. And what does that mean, take control of your mind? Find the good in everything. We can find the good in everything. I was watching when I had reactive arthritis, and it felt like every bone in my body was broken. And I would collapse and be useless by 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon and just have to sit there like this, like an old man in a recliner, like I was 95 years old. I would watch Netflix documentaries, and I watched Garth Brooks' documentary. Anybody seen that? That's so good. What would he say? He would say, everything has a blessing and a curse. In everything, there is a blessing and a curse. You know, iPhone's good. You can do so many things. I have so many farm apps on it. We communicate to each other. You know me because there's iPhone. But it can also be bad. You can become addicted to the social media stuff. You can compare yourself to others. Everything has a blessing and a curse, and we've just got to train our muscles to look for the good. Just like if we want to work out and train and build our physical muscles, we have to work the muscles of our mind by training them and practicing them. One thing that you can do that's really helpful, even if you do it in your spirit, even if you do it in your mind, you're getting stressed out. I get stressed out a lot on the farm. I feel so much pressure. I feel this, I got to get this done because I got these other things to do, and I'm always looking forward, and things don't go as planned half the time or more. And I'll be like, what am I doing this for? Like, I'm miserable. Like, how you live your days is how you live your life. And I'm really stressed out about this. Like, what? Take a moment. Put your hand on your heart. Take a deep breath. This one helps me. Too blessed to stress. Just say that. And then you think, oh, well, I'm breathing right now. My kids are here. I'm walking. I have this beautiful scenery. Too blessed to stress. That's an exercise in finding the good. I like the 1% rule. Many times when I get overwhelmed or when people get overwhelmed, I'll say to them, just do 1%. Just change 1%. And every day, in every way, we can get better. But it doesn't usually come in leaps and bounds. On the farm, it wasn't overnight that we have John Deere machines, that we have pole barns, that we have countless Premier One nets. We used to farm. We probably farmed for 10 years with one Premier One poultry net. We would do deep bedding in the poultry net. We would do chicken garden miracles in the poultry net. We would do everything in that net. We did everything with a wheelbarrow. We hauled chitlers, we hauled hay, we hauled everything with a wheelbarrow. And it wasn't overnight that we got to 3 milk cows. It was every day. Rain, sleet, cold, Christmas, every day something. In fact, my friend Pete Canaris visited me in 2018 after I met him on the Great American Farm Tour. He's from Florida. We joked that he brought the rains when he came and visited us because it rained like 19 inches that week. That week. We're in a temperate rainforest in western North Carolina. We get 40 inches a year. That year it rained 80 inches. You know, Rebecca and I were on the farm tour, and we went west of the Mississippi, and we're like, after about 20 days, out here east, if you're from the east, don't you get a little panicked after 5 days without rain? But we're so busy, we finally noticed after 20 days, wait a minute, it hadn't rained. We got to Arizona, went to see Donnell from Weedham and Reap, and found out she only gets 3 inches of rain every year. We're kind of like, you can move east. It's a free country. Up in Minnesota, Randy told me, we're sitting there, I'm sitting there editing, he's watching me, we're having a good time, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I guess he needed some therapy. He said, you know what? It gets minus 60 here. That was out of nowhere. And I just kept going, working, and then I was like, paused. Don't bad things happen at minus 60? Yeah, your car will not start, and your face will freeze off after 3 minutes. Hey, Randy, you can move south. Free country. No, they were happy. And they, too, didn't get to where they are without every day doing something, whether you want to or not. So Pete is up there visiting me. It's raining. It's miserable. And I can be cheap sometimes. There's holes in my rubber boots, so my socks are getting wet. I didn't have a full rain suit. Believe me, after that I did, because it rained like 5 days straight, like pouring. And you got to go do the chores. And Pete, he must have seen disgruntled in my face and spirit. And he said, I don't think he had the camera, but he said, Justin, why are you doing this? And in that moment, maybe it's how you guys are feeling out there in the heat. I see you guys fanning yourself. Why am I doing it? Why do we come to this? Why are you doing this, Justin? And I said, good question. I had to search my soul there for that moment. Like, really? Why are we doing this? I trained this farm sitter once, and it was like this 4-page list I outlined the workflow, and I'm like, holy crap, it took 4 hours to train him. I'm like, why? I asked him, why am I doing this? He said, because there's no other way. That was a good answer. For Rebecca and I, it's for health. And even though we paid $12 a dozen for eggs here, the eggs we grow at home are going to even be more nutrient dense. They're going to be even fresher. They're going to be, we know exactly what they've been fed. They're eating the bugs and the grass and the organic feed. So I had to search my heart for why am I doing this? And I realized, and I said to Pete, I said, because what I do today, we were going to move the cows or move the chickens or something, and that improves the land. It doesn't degrade the land. I said, what we're doing today, Pete, is going to make this land a better place for my grandchildren. I haven't even met my grandchildren. I'm going to be the greatest big papa in the world. I'm already talking about these grandbabies. Probably a better grandpa than dad. Cannot wait. And I already think about them. And I think about that too. I'm on a family farm. My grandpa acquired the land in 1932. Anybody want to guess how much? 75 acres in western North Carolina, which is now worth $30,000 to $50,000 an acre, was in 1932. He paid $500, half his income for 2 years, so he made $1,000 a year, and he paid it off. I've never met my grandpa. He died. But we have these monthly gatherings in the barn that he built from the land. And let me tell you, it sucked. It sucked sometimes. He had no power tools. He was doing it all by hand. You can tell he didn't have a level. But it's there and going strong. And I said, we ought to add a door to this. So I harvested wood from the farm and put a door on this and made it better. And I hope the grandkids get to meet me. The great-grandkids won't. And hopefully what I put in today, in that rain, that 1%, I'm going to get to benefit from that. We were out protecting fruit trees. We just planted fruit trees. They say, when's the best time to plant a tree? And they say, 20 years ago. Well, when's the second best time? Now. I don't know if I agree with that. Because trees are permanent. You can't move them if you make a mistake. We put in our orchard where we thought it should go. It ended up being in the frost pocket and taking in all the water at the bottom of the valley. It was a horrible place. They're all dead. We had one survivor for like 8 years, and it finally died this year, Rebecca, the peach tree. So now that we know we need to put the fruit trees higher up, and now that we know we actually don't want an orchard, we want to put fruit trees out in the pasture to silvopasture our pastures. We want to, like Joel, forest our pastures and pastures our forests. Did I say that right, Beck? And so we're planting trees in the pastures, and we're clearing our forest and leaving some of the trees there. And we're working hard to protect these guys. We're making sure the wire is around these. We're investing in these T-posts to go around these trees, because when you put fruit trees in I can see why people would plant an orchard and have a cute little fence around it all. Because now I'm having to make these fortresses around every individual tree. And I thought about it, and I mentioned it in the vlog, and I thought, this is an investment in my children. My children are 15, 13, and 11, and I started to think about it. This one tree that we were protecting is kind of over the hill from the house, and I thought, this is cool. Jonah might sneak off here, with his girlfriend, and they'll have a little quiet place away from the house, private. They'll go get him an apple off the tree, right? Who knows? They might get engaged out there or something. You don't ever know. And that was a precious thought. And fruit trees are an investment, so they take 5, 6, or more years to come. So oftentimes we don't even get to benefit from that. We visited somebody on the farm tour who was planting fruit trees, and he was at a rental, and he knew he was moving the next year. And I said, what are you doing? You're not going to get to enjoy this. And he said, yeah, I won't get to enjoy it, but somebody else will. My goodness. We need more people like that, don't we? So I'm planting this tree, and it's hard work now. This is like the best passive income you can think of, right? We're doing this hard work now, and we're going to reap the benefits later. And whether it's a better life and a more set up farm for my children, or if my children forsake the farm and go away and we support them in that, a more manageable farm for the old man and the old lady trying to run it. The fruit trees will be coming in. The fruit trees will be strong enough to stand up against Stud Muffin when he rubs his big 1,200-pound body on him. Okay? Let's get rid of the can't mentality. We catch ourselves saying can't. Empower yourself and either say, no, I won't do that. If somebody asks you to do something you really don't want to, just say, no, I don't want to do that. That's much more empowering and enabling of you than to say, oh, I can't, woe is me, I can't, that different kind of attitude. But maybe try staying, instead of I can't. We had somebody, I had talked about the $12 eggs. Listen to this, guys. You can go, Rebecca and I went to the grocery store. We got eggs, we got 4 dozen eggs, a little tiny watermelon, a little package of ham, and a couple of snack bars for Henry. And it was like $88. And I thought of a book I read. It was called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. In that book, he talks about the difference between the wealthy and the poor. And it's in the way they spend their money. The poor spend their money on liabilities. So in that case of this food, I spent the money on this food, and we consumed it and enjoyed it, but then it's gone, and we really have nothing to show for it. So these are things that degrade over time, or you consume and are gone. Those are what we'll call liabilities in this case. The rich and the wealthy spend money on assets, so things that save them money or earn them more money, okay? And I was sitting here thinking about this. Here's all this $88 food, and I'm thinking back at home, I've spent $88. If I would have taken that and invested it in the homestead, do you see what happens? Then you save money and it compounds and you just become, before you know it, you got a pole barn. Okay, because you're spending money on things that save you money and earn you money. So instead of saying, I can't, say, how can I? Dare to challenge your brain. If you want it bad enough. What I was saying about that, somebody said in the comments, well, some people just actually can't. Like really, they're that poor and they just can't. There's just not. I plugged my book in it, my Homestead book. We're launching that on we're launching Homestead Builds on a Kickstarter, and I'm saying, hey, if you stop buying food at the grocery store and start spending the money on a homestead, on books, on instruction, on building coops or whatever, in the end, you'll come out on top. And they're saying, well, they can't. Well, Rebecca and I were in that spot, but we wanted it so bad. We had no money. We had negative money. We were renting out our spare bedroom on Airbnb to pay the bills. I was renting from my dad. He had 2 other buildings. We took their trash. We mowed their grass to pay the rent. We lived on food assistance. We dumpster dove. We even went to credit cards. We were negative money, but we had to grow our own food. We wanted it so bad. So we needed 12 chickens. So instead of getting 12 chickens, we got 24. What? That's double the money. That's even more expensive. No, we said, how can we afford it? Oh, we'll get 24 chickens instead of 12, and we'll sell the abundance, and it pays for the feed. And the CSA model was hot at that time. So we said, oh, we need a whole steer to feed ourselves beef for a year. What are we going to do? We're going to buy 1 steer? We did that at first. It's a horrible mistake. Do not buy just 1 cow. I don't think I have time for that side story, but get double. Sell the abundance and pay for the whole operations. Because you disable yourself as soon as you say can't. Challenge your mind. If you want it bad enough, your mind will find a way. Write out 6 crazy ways. You want beef? Somebody in here wants beef and they think they can't afford it. There's some excuse. Oh, maybe I don't have enough land. Lease somebody else's land. Go to your neighbor and say, you want in on this? I'll give you half this cow if you let me raise it. See what I'm saying? Stop it. Stop it with the I can't and get out of the box with the I can. I tell my kids when they say I can't, can't, never could, and could did it all. Okay, as a spouse, I got to speed this up, I think. How do you get your spouse on board? Ladies, you want to know how to get your spouse on board? Here's how you do it. The husband's not into it. You find a book. You decide to grow a garden. And not just a garden. Remember what we're doing? We're growing enough to sell some. So you decide you want to do the CSA garden. That means you're gonna grow this produce, but first you're gonna get customers. You're gonna You got to go out and talk to your friends and say, hey, you want to go in on this garden with me? You got to give half the money up front, and then you'll get produce every week for 20, 40 weeks, whatever it was. And then go to your husband and say, oh, darling, I'm afraid to call these people. Will you call them? And have the husband call and sell these shares. He'll get on the phone. He'll just go through the contact list, call all the friends and family, and tell them all about this vegetable garden. She's laughing. Is this a good trick, Rebecca? Is this a good way to get husbands on board? Wait, you guys just wait. It's coming. So I owed her a favor. I called all these people. We sold some shares. We sold a dozen shares. That's enough. It was enough to pay for everything and get us our food. Well, remember, these are our friends and family. So she's starting. She says, I'm going to do it, Justin. You don't have to do it. I've got the book. Jess is laughing. I don't think you've heard this story, but I bet you know where this is going. It's going good. I'm doing my thing. I'm doing whatever I was doing at the time. And then she's doing her thing. I don't think, we had one kid. There's a little hint. So it's a good start. And then she went and got pregnant with Josiah. And she went and got sick. Ladies, that's all you got to do. Your husband has called and sold all these shares to his friends and family. And we're going to have to deliver. The wife's sick as a dog in the bed. So, ladies, you want your husband on board? Sell some garden shares to some friends and family. And then go get pregnant. Okay. Okay, all jokes aside. How do you get your spouse on board? You're not going to like this answer. You don't. You don't. We were on the way up here. Who were we listening to? Dr. Laura, I can't say her last name. Schlesinger? Okay, this therapist. Y'all remember her from like 30 years ago? This radio therapist. She's now on Sirius XM. Okay, we're listening to her. Some woman was complaining about the husband not being involved or this and that. And Laura, Dr. Laura, I like her because she always turns it on the caller. She never buys into the complaint. She always ends up barking at the caller. And she said, you know what? No. Okay, so where is he at in the evening? He's out at the shop. He's just in the shop. She said, well, go out to the shop. You want to spend more time with him? You want him to spend more time with you? Go to the shop. Go to where he's at. And you know, she had a little trick. You just go out there and you be fun to be around. And you talk to him and show interest in them. And then you do that for several days and then you don't show up. And then he's missing you and wondering where you're at. And then he comes to you. So that's a little trick. But I can apply that to homesteading too. I say, don't get them involved. What are you doing? Think about where they're at. Think about what they're doing. They might be on the football forum saying, how do I get my spouse to get into this? How do I get her to watch Monday Night Football with me? So you might need to take a moment and watch Monday Night Football because they might be wondering how to get you involved in what they're ever doing. And the relationship is more important, isn't it? That's what's going to be there at the end. Remember Randy climbing in Minnesota, minus 60? It might have gotten to his head. I don't know. But I feel like he did the right thing here. He quit. He quit farming. And I think it was the most wonderful decisions in the world. And we're still friends. We still text. I don't base a friendship with you based on whether you homestead or not. I base it on who you are as a person. And it was hurting the family. And for them, I don't know if the kids weren't into it or what, I don't know, but they needed to stop it. Good for them. So, you know, I'm not saying give up your homestead dream, just work within the boundaries of that. They don't want you to get chickens, don't get chickens. There's plenty of other things to do, vegetable gardens, worm farms, whatever you can do within that boundary. And I think in the book, The Rooted Life, I talk about just bring them out to the fun stuff. Invite them from now to now. Bring them out to the harvest. Definitely cook from that and give them the food from that. And don't make it a burden to them. Your passion and your desire can't be a burden to them. And you got to work within the confines of that relationship because you're probably changing. So you got to think about it from that perspective. They didn't marry a crazy chicken lady. They married somebody else that turned into that. So let's give them some mercy and understand and some patience. So I know that's probably not the answer you wanted. But so how do you work together without killing each other? That's what Rebecca and I deal with the most, right, babe? So there's this guy that walks down our street. We're in rural North Carolina. But there's this family that would walk down the street, and this man, he would never have a shirt on. And he wasn't like this fit bodybuilder either. Okay? And it didn't matter if it was a hot day like today, you might understand it. It might be a little cooler. It might be fall. It might be very early spring. Here he comes. We got to where we call him the shirtless man. I mean, it was so phenomenal that every time we saw him, he never had a shirt on. It was like, I don't know if y'all know the Liver King, but he's like that. Like went everywhere without his shirt. What? But he did not have the Liver King's body. He did not have the Liver King's fit body, okay? So we had fun. We called him the shirtless man. Well, Rebecca and I had our first kid, Jonah, and we're really attachment. We find that we're attachment parenting, and so we're really a lot of time with our kids. And she didn't want to leave him. Well, finally, I talked her into a date at about 18 months old. 18 months, guys. We hadn't had a date. And we're driving out our rural road, and we're about a mile from the house. And Rebecca's starting to talk to me. Oh, I'm leaving my baby. Anybody can relate to that? Oh, the poor guy. He's going to think I abandoned him. And we're going on and on like this. And I'm like enjoying the peace and quiet, looking around. And then I look over and I'm like, wait a minute. Shirtless man is throwing hay and he does not have a shirt on. I don't know if you guys have ever thrown hay. I wouldn't even throw hay in a short sleeve shirt. That stuff gets on you and itches and hurts and scratches you. I thought Rebecca would be just as amazed. Rebecca, shirtless man. And I look over to just see the laugh and the joke, and we're going to have a good time. I don't know if you could see my face, but it changed from happiness to sadness to sad. What? I'm pouring my heart out to you, and all you can think about is a shirtless man. Ooh. Okay. We recovered. Not really. I'm joking about it still. 15 years from 15 years later, we're still living it. What can we learn from the shirtless man and how to cultivate a relationship and work together? Well, go on dates. My goodness. And if you don't have the money, we at one time did not have the money. Have dates at home. I can remember when we would set it aside. We'd have Tuesday nights. We'd feed the kids dinner, get them in bed, and then we'd have our own dinner. We'd watch a movie. We had dates at home after the kids went to bed. Have dates in the morning before the kids get up. There are ways. Send them out. Lock the door. It's okay. They'll survive. That's what you learn after 5 kids. You don't go on dates for 18 months. You boil the couch, all this. By the 5th one, what's that comedian say? Who was that? Jim Gaffigan? You find a little dirty lollipop in the bottom of the floor. I think it was Tim Hawkins. You find this dirty lollipop in the floor. That's a bonus. Just give it to the kid. Shut up. I'm glad I have notes. I get off track there. All right, that was a bonus. You listen. I wasn't being a very good listener, was I? But that's very important to listen to each other. Here I say this like a big, tough listener. I must have gotten yelled at 3 or 4 times this weekend about not listening. I guess that's how I know it's important. So go and listen, fellas. Finally, I caught her not listening. The lady in here this morning. What? She's listening. The lady this morning said, "Go park at the end." And she said, "Park anywhere." My fact checker here. Come on, sometimes the truth ruins a good story, Becky. And she said, "Go park at the end." And then we got talking about other things, I don't know what. And then at the end, I kid you not, Rebecca said, "Where do we park?" I said, "I caught you not listening." No, I shouldn't have done that. Okay, these little nitpicking things. That's good to nitpick. Her mom and dad nitpick at each other so much. It's hilarious. Especially when back in the days, they were construction. They had their own construction company, and I helped them build their house. And they would just nitpick and fuss and fight over the stupidest things. But they've been married 50 years. They didn't let anything hide. They got it all out there. From the littlest, you didn't listen to the parking lady. Jonah laughs because we got in some fight about tying our shoes or something. I don't even know what it's about. That was years ago. He still laughs about, y'all got in a fight about tying shoes, and it was a bad one, right? Fight in front of the kids. My parents never fought in front of me. My mom left us, and we divorce, ended in divorce. Talk to each other, fight in front of the kids, and this would be the next one, the next tip. Apologize. And so then in that case, apologize in front of the kids. I had some mentors who used to teach us to walk in each other's forgiveness. That's good. I mentioned it in my other talk yesterday. I'll mention it again because maybe it was at this event. It was one of these events. He came up to me and he said he's been married 40 years. If anybody's been married 40 years, say, how'd you do it? What's the secret? Usually they're pretty humble and they laugh. Oh, it's God or this and that. No, you got to really dig. You got to be like, no, how did you do it specifically? How did you guys act with each other this morning? He said 2 words. And I said, I'm sorry. He said, no, that's a good guess. But if you do this, you won't need I'm sorry. You ready, guys? Yes, dear. The Garden of Peace. Yes, dear. She's your number one. We need to act like it. Maybe I shouldn't out her on the stage. All right. Okay. As a parent, how do you do the rooted life as a parent? How do you get your children on farm? First of all, you want them. When my dad was an entrepreneur. Maybe that's where I learned it. He was a traveling salesman. He was the first to forsake the farm. And he found out that you could make a lot more money as a traveling salesman than on the farm. And he didn't have media content creation business and all that stuff to jump on. So he became an orthodontic salesman. That did not stop my dad from taking his children along. An orthodontic salesman goes into an orthodontic office, very professional place, talks to the receptionist, goes back, and what you do, you call on a doctor. That's what it's called. He'll go back and talk to the doctor and sell him the newest devices. And he would take us to that. That's not your definition of a kid-friendly job. That's not every day is bring your kid to work day, right? Farm, every day bring your kid to work day. Orthodontic salesman, not so much. It didn't stop him. Oftentimes he left us in the car to just tear it up and make all kinds of, but he just took us along because there were other times than him calling on doctors. We went to this one off. So my dad's favorite food was Mexican. We had gone to a Mexican restaurant, and those refried beans had really gotten to him, you know what I mean? But thankfully he's getting it out before we go in there. And we go in there, and that he's flirting with the receptionist a little bit, and she's just a cute professional lady. And she looks at me, and I'm this cute little boy. I was this little boy. And she said, you like traveling with your dad? And she just can't wait for the cute little response. And I say, no. And she does that. She laughs. She said, oh, this is going to be different. Well, why not? Now, remember, my dad's flirting with this cute young lady. He farts too much. My dad has never been embarrassed in his life. He wouldn't even be embarrassed me telling this story right now. He was embarrassed that day. His face got so red. But my dad wanted me bad enough that he would take me. That's the first step, to want your children. And it's going to be a disaster. I'm sure we tore up those offices. Who knows how much I hope he made enough to pay for all our damage to those offices. This was like the 80s, I guess, so you could do that. But we must have destroyed those offices unsupervised. So you got to want them. It starts with you. And they're going to be a pain. They're going to step on the vegetables. They're going to kill little chicks. They're going to do this and that. Just plant 25% more. And it'll make it a little less daunting. And take them when they're little. That's when they want it. That's when they're excited about it. And that's when they're the biggest pain. But do it because it's an investment. And you know what will happen? Even on butchering days, even if they don't help, you're out there butchering, even if you let them go play and they're playing with their little trucks nearby and they're hearing you have a good time and laugh, you know what's going to happen? They're going to associate the farm with something that's good. Even if they weren't working and hands-on, you weren't having direct fun, they are over off to the side having a blast. The farm, good memories. The farm is good. And then when they're 15, they want to be there and add their own contribution to the farm when it's amazing. Let them take charge. I arrived the other day. I don't know how I did this. I did something right. I'm so happy about it. I'm happy to share it with you guys. We were out moving the animals on a normal chore. And I remember looking over and I saw the Premier One net was, we call it a joint, where two Premier One nets come together. And they weren't hooked up. And that's where we had moved the cows. And I knew I would need to go hook that up. And I kind of just looked over there and said, okay, I hope I remember to go do that. And then about the time I was thinking that, I had noticed it. Josiah, my second son, said, hey, Pop, go shut that joint. That was the best moment of my life so far with my kids. My boy bossing me around. That's the moment. Where's Joel at? We could probably ask him that. That was probably one of the most wonderful moments when Daniel took charge. And Joe will talk about it. He'll come back. What do I need to do? That's the dream, that your children will boss you around. Don't be too proud that you can't do that. So you better believe, even though it might have been more efficient to go do what I was going to do, I stopped. And I listened to the boss man, and I went and closed that joint, and I said, I have arrived. And I took a moment to enjoy that moment. Because oftentimes we're looking to the next. We're looking towards the goal, and it's good to stop and smell roses, even if we're just smelling them as we walk to the next job. How about letting them fail? Let them have their ideas. Let them explore things. Let them fail. Joan and I were planting a garden, and I'm out there, proper seed spacing. And Jonah said, let me plant. And kids love to plant seeds. And little Henry loved to grab them all and just go. Okay? They really go through some seeds fast with kids. There's something about them. They really love to throw them seeds. Rebecca's laughing. Remember, get 25% more seeds than you need. But I said, okay, Jonah, you plant some seeds. I gave him a pack. I'm taking my time. Probably should have took him 20 minutes to do it proper. I did it, Papa. And I'm like, this is your section, okay? Let that section go. Take a deep breath and let it go. Let him do his thing. Let him fail. I knew he was going to fail. It was going to be terrible. But he wouldn't remember that Dad said, we think we're helping them, don't we, parents? We think we're helping them. We're saving them from something. Oh, we're so smart. We're going to save them from this pain. They need to experience that pain. That's the best thing we can do for them. And they've always remembered that we were there cheering for them. You want to plant seeds like that? Who's going to be your biggest fan? If it fails, who's going to be your biggest comfort? Who's going to give you the hug? If it wins, who's going to help you celebrate the most? Hopefully you. It's hard to let them fail, but we got to let them. One reason is because those veggies started coming in. Jonah's garden is jamming. Mine is failing. What ended up happening, that close density, those plants came up and it darkened out the weeds. The weeds couldn't grow. These taller plants, he didn't pay any attention to any kind of plant where. So all these vegetables are growing up. There's taller vegetables growing up, broccoli or whatever it was, shading the lettuce. The lettuce doesn't like the sun, so the sun's starting to get hot. He's got lettuce growing under shade. And it jammed. Ever since then, we've been breaking all the rules and planting plants way too close, and it's working out great. So sometimes it can work. The boys just planted. They wanted to plant corn. Can we plant corn? Okay, yes, go plant. Here's a couple of rows. Go plant your corn. Come back in. I had kind of said, well, you might want to start those in soil blocks. Maybe I shouldn't even said that. Yeah, I got to even be careful about that. Just kind of let them go out there and experiment. But I kind of maybe tried to remind them that we do have soil blocks. And you can give plants a head start if you do it in soil blocks. They didn't listen. And I didn't care. It's their project. They planted to direct seed that corn. So now that corn is going to compete directly with the weeds. And I kind of think it's not going to work. So I did say to the beautiful one, Beauty, do you really want some corn? No, I'm okay because, honey, I think it's going to fail. And if you really want some corn, I'll sneak and I'll go plant some in some soil blocks and then have my own experiment. I don't know if it's going to make it or not. Who cares? Mom and Dad let them plant the corn. Mom and Dad were there to have the corn on the cob and celebrate with them. Or say, oh, well, let's move on if it fails. We can give them responsibility. That can be asking them. This is a good thing. If it doesn't matter, especially if it doesn't matter, if you put your chickens here, if you're moving your chickens, you can put them here or here, and it doesn't matter. Say to the kid, where do you want to move the chickens? What should we do? And then go with it. You'll see me in the vlog asking them, and then we'll go with it. And sometimes we'll go with their ideas, and then it goes bad. You just got to keep your patience and try not to say, I told you so, and just try to do it their way, especially if it's like not very critical. Make them work. Well, before we get to make them work, let's do reward. So reward them. Lily's here. We're making money at our booth. We're selling books. We're selling memberships, whatever. Hey, nobody had to come, but Lily came. She has this entrepreneur spirit. She's got this game with her little girlfriends here. Who can make the most money? And so she's over here trying to think of ways. How much can I take pictures, Daddy? So yeah, if you come see us this afternoon, she's going to be taking pictures. And so we're making money. We're gonna pay her. Reward her. Buy their eggs. Let them have their own egg operation, and you be the one to buy their eggs. You be their number one customer. And it's okay that you're the customer. My parents were my number one customers. Now, make them work. One thing I'm afraid of, a lot of us are homeschooling here. I'm afraid that a lot of homeschoolers are turning out to be a bunch of softies. And it's a good thing you're on a farm, because it's hard work that builds character. It's who's worked the hardest and pushed through the most that are our leaders of the future. It's not the softies who got to do what they want all day long. So the problem may be in that, even though we would argue maybe that the public school is an inferior system or whatever, the kids are there 7 hours a day, 8 hours a day, doing something they don't want to do. They're building some character, whether they want it or know it or not. And a homeschooler, we might come into this danger of, they only have to not do something they don't want to do for a couple of hours, and then it's all this free hurrah. We've had homeschoolers come to us for a mama's helper position and say, I don't change dirty diapers. How far are we going to get with that? I don't do steady. We've had homeschoolers tell us that. I don't do steady. How far is that going to get you in the real world? So, we've got to do stuff we don't want to do. And you guys say to me, how do you get your kids to want it? They don't want it. I mean, they don't always want it. They don't want to get up every morning at 5:30. But we're doing it. And sometimes I'll doubt myself. I'll be out there on a Saturday or Sunday, and I'm thinking, we're out here, and we were here 420 days in a row. And even I'm like, this is sucking. And am I doing the right thing by them? And then I think of what the alternative would be, what they would be doing if we weren't doing this. And I'm like, this is right, and this is good. It's all right. We can grow accustomed to think that we have to have comfort all the time. Pain is good. Every day something dies so that we can live. We need to kill ourselves so that we can live. We need that. Have you ever, you want to hang out with somebody interesting and fun and wise and insightful and successful. Hang out with somebody who's experienced a lot of pain. It's not your person who has had a good life. The stories are boring. The wisdom is shallow. Hang out with somebody who's experienced a lot of pain. And now you be that person. And you seek the discomfort. You seek the pain. Not as some weirdo seeking it out for what it is, but for the higher purpose. You go for the good that is so good and so worthy that you're willing to pay any price to get there. And that will build amazing character. So, let's go. How do you do it as a family then? We've talked about individual, as a spouse, for your children, as a parent, as a family. I was listening to Sam Barber on the way up here. I just found this up-and-coming country music star. He's so good. Look it up on YouTube Music or Spotify or whatever. Sam Barber. And his song goes, good times become the good old days. You know how you look back on the good old days? Well, you were having a good time. That means right now, if we want these to be the good old days, we need to have a good time. We're over at the Airbnb. We're living in this tiny cabin as we do this remodel. So we rented this big old Airbnb, and we're like, woo! We can leave a spoon out and it doesn't feel like the whole place is a wreck. So, I mean, I got feeling good. Sometimes Pop starts feeling saucy. And I saw this big bed, and I remember what I used to do with big beds. Remember kids, or remember, I call you all kids. Okay, let's go back. Remember kids, when you went to the hotel room, drove your parents nuts, you're 8 years old, what's the first thing you do? Big old belly flop onto the bed. Woo! So I got this weird notion, I should just jump on this bed. Becca's laughing, it's true. And it was kind of out of character. I don't do that enough. I said, watch this, kids. And I went and I took off and did a big old belly flop into that bed. And then I said, all right, who's next? And we had this competition. We started playing these. Even little baby Henry's getting into it. He knows this is fun. That was a good time. These are going to be the good old days. And I even thought about it then. One day I'm going to be old. I mean, we're bringing Rebecca's parents here, and bless her heart, Grandma's on a cane. And, is having a hard time speaking. And then that's going to be me. I'm not going to be able to jump on that bed like that. But my kids are going to go to some Airbnb or something. And, remember that? Remember the good old days when Pop was 40, 45, and he'd jump on that bed. That idiot. God bless his soul. Rest in peace. So create a culture. Create a culture. This is how we do it. How do you get your kids used to butchering? It's just what we do. Henry's been on my back. He's seen sheep. He's seen duck. He's seen turkey. He's seen cows. He's seen pigs, all killed on the farm. That's how they get used to it. And it's just what we do. My dad, he'd make us haul wood and work wood and sell firewood on Saturday. And, it was one day off. All my friends were watching DuckTales. It was the only day cartoons came on. Okay, we didn't have this streaming. You can watch cartoons all the time. Only on Saturday morning. And instead, all my friends were watching Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and DuckTales. I was all out in firewood, and I hated it. But one thing that was so special about, and I don't hate it now. It was one of the best things he ever did for me was, make me work. And I remember we'd go into town. We see all these people driving around. If you guys go into town, say this. You guys get... You say, why can't I get that to stay? You guys really do need me to keep my notes in place or I'll go wild. We're driving to town. We're seeing all these people going to the mall. Remember the mall? People used to go to the mall, shop there, and we're seeing them all, just doing nothing, going to the restaurant or what. And he'd reach over and he'd slap my leg and squeeze it, and he'd say, are we the only ones working today? I don't know what it was about that was so special. Well, he was creating a culture. We, not me. It was this we. Are we the only ones working? And it was like not a us versus them, but it kind of was a us versus them. Are we, we have something special. We got something going on here that others don't. This is a culture. And he was creating that for us. And we have a culture at our farm. We just get up and do. And I'm thinking, okay, if I ever had that doubt of should my kids just be let to sleep in and do whatever they want? And you think about Mr. Brown, a.k.a. Gideon, getting that privilege, it's going to be bad news. I'm like, okay, no, it's really good that Gideon has a vision placed on him right now. There will be a time and a place for him to make some more decisions for himself, but now is not the time. This is good. Let's sprinkle in some fun. And like fun, like not just making the work fun. I mean, you can be goofy and carry on with the work, but how about a soccer field? I remember when it was one summer and we're just tired and it's not getting dark till 9 or 9:30 and we're still getting up early, and we're ready to go to bed, but the chickens got to be put up. And we got all this downtime after dinner until the chickens need to be put up. We got to where we just take a couple of poles out there and we'd go out there for the last 20 minutes and just play soccer. And that was a lot of fun. The kids don't have to go and do their own thing. You don't have to have one kid in soccer, one kid in karate, the other in dance. How about all of you go on, form a hike club, and you all go hiking together? Or you all play soccer together. And there's nothing wrong with going and doing those individual things, but I'm just throwing that out there to you too. We love the movie Elf. Anybody watch Elf? We watch that every Christmas. And you know what my favorite line in that movie is? Elf just took this job in this department store. He believes in his heart he's an elf from the North Pole. I guess he is. And then, this hardcore manager, he's just wanting people to work and do right in this job. And Elf takes this job, and they're talking about work. And the manager looks at him and he says, "Make work your favorite." The best line in that movie. If work's not your favorite, make it your favorite. Work to make your favorite, and there's nothing wrong with it. And you don't have to go to Fun Depot with your kids to get quality time together. You can sneak off on the 0 day and say, "Hey, Gideon, let's get up and let's surprise everybody and let's go do the chores together." Lily and I, you shake Lily's hand. Be careful. She might hurt you. She's got the strongest handshake because she's been milking since she was 7? 8. I'll say 8, and she'll say, "Pop, it was 7. I've been milking since I was 7. She got the strongest handshake. My granny was 101 when she died, and she milked a cow her whole life. And at 101, you better be careful shaking her hand. My dad, it broke my heart when he was dying. Thank the Lord he died quick. He went down, and then he went down fast. And I was so nervous going in and seeing him. Every day we'd go visit him, and he was going down fast. And we would hug, and I would kiss my 80-something-year-old dad on the forehead. Never did that in my life. Kiss him on the forehead and grab his hand. And I needed it to be strong, and it was. And, I can remember he would walk me around at the fair at a place like this. And I would say, "Daddy, hold my hand." And he would just hold it normal. And I'd say, "No, hold it hard." And he would squeeze my hand hard. And I can remember when I had reactive arthritis, I couldn't bear. I was vlogging during that time still. I had to turn on the button with my knuckle. And I had to hold the camera like this. It was bad. I couldn't even open my own jars. Rebecca had to open my jars. She's always coming to me, "Open this jar." Little Gideon, oblivious to what's going on with Pop. He's his hero. He came up to me. He said, "Pop, can you open my bottle? Come hell or high water, I'm opening that bottle." I pushed through that pain and I opened that bottle. And thank God I could do it, because there is something in a daddy's strength and a mama's strength, and that only comes. How did my dad get that strength? How did Granny get that strength? Every day, 1% better, doing it in the rain, doing it in the ice, doing it no matter what. And my dad probably hurt to shake my hand, but he did it. And it's okay to hurt. I got so far off, I don't even know where I was in my notes. Okay. Okay. Just give me 1 second. As a family. Okay, make work your favorite. Explore your threads. 10 minutes. I'm about that. Okay. Explore your threads. I got to wrap this up, guys, in like 5 minutes. Explore your threads. So keep on exploring those weird things. Be open. You've already questioned one thing. It's easier to question others. I feel like I've covered that good enough. Okay. Now, back to the point of the story. We're wrapping it up here. The joy of the rooted life. Remember I opened this up? The pigs are getting out. Jonah, our eldest, in his prime as a family member, is injured. The chicks, something's been getting the chicks. We don't know what. Really? That's what we want? The eggs don't even taste. I can't even tell. Jess, when we did that blind taste test with Morgan, could we tell? I couldn't. I failed the test. I thought the box store eggs were the farm fresh eggs. Now, tomatoes, I'll give you that. As Jess would say, store-bought tomatoes taste like disappointment. I'll give you that. But not everything. There are many things in the grocery store that taste better. I'm not saying it's more nutrient dense or any of that. Tastes better. Why are we doing this? I'll sit down. My dad used to tell me about how Grandpa Henry, my grandpa, would sit down to a plate of food and sit down and be so proud. We grew this. We grew all this. And I got it. I thought, okay, yeah. And I've gotten to that point where, it's almost become, it's normal now. And sometimes we have to force ourselves to take a minute and say, hey, wait, we grew all this. But why is it so pride? It's not necessarily because it's tastier. It's certainly not prettier. The farmer takes the ugliest produce, right? And sells the beautiful abundance. And you take the weird carrots with the twisted looking lady legs, you know? You take the potatoes that have the, you know, we had a contest when we harvest all these potatoes. Who could find the weirdest looking potato? That's what y'all are eating. What is it? You know what it is? It's that. It's the pigs getting out. It's the losing the chicks. And you finally get that food to the table. It's the calloused hands. It's the rain. And that food made it to that table. And I didn't just know this story. I was part of this story. And this story had an epic struggle. And that is why it's so sweet. When I bought Josiah some ham at the store for this trip, and he'll enjoy that. It probably tastes pretty good. He likes it better than peanut butter and jelly. Hey, eat your ham. But remember those two little piglets that got out? When those get on the plate, and we have that ham, and we went through all that trouble to smoke that ham, and we have that, that's going to taste good. Not necessarily because of the way we cooked it and smoked it, but because we chased those pigs. Remember when we chased those little piglets? We had to lure them with milk, and then when you picked them up, they pooped all over you, and you lost your religion, and you had to apologize to all of us. Here it is. This is good because of the struggle. That's the rooted life. Embracing and accepting the struggle. So hopefully that encourages you guys. Do come see us. They're pushing me off the stage. Joel's coming next. That's going to be a good one. Come see us at Abundance Plus. If you're a member or buy a book, we're going to give you a free cold drink. It's hot. Rebecca's like waving her. She's about to break it out. She's about to strip it down. She's about to sunbathe, guys. Oh, so you're hot. Come get a drink at the Abundance Plus tent. Come say hey.